So to start session, or to open your session, you're going to scroll down to Learning Trees and Session widget. Find the session for the client. Click it. And that'll open you to your data sheet. To start session, you'll go up and click Restart Session. And that'll restart the timer and it'll turn green to indicate that you are actively taking goals. Below that, you'll see this list of goals for your client. When you click a goal here, it'll light up wherever that goal is, whether it's here in the net view or down here pinned. To collect the data, depending on what kind of data you're collecting, which will be outlined by your BCBA, you'll use these boxes in the middle. And then on the right, you have more detail on the data that was graphed. You can see the current phase of the intervention, whatever the last graph data point was. So since this is percent correct, the last graph data point was 66%. That's how often they were correct. Who was the last person to graph it? If there's more than one RBT, you'll be able to see that the other RBT graphed the last data point and how it went for them and how much support they had to offer them in order for them to be successful, which the support part is indicated by the last 3 prompts used. And the number of trials last graph lets you know how many times the last RBT ran this trial or practiced this with them. In trial activity, you can see all of the current trials that have been ran. So as you're running your trials in session, you're collecting your data and it'll show up here. Just like that. Now, you see once I started taking data, this unsaved changes warning pops up. That's letting you know that you should click the Save Progress button, because any data not saved could potentially disappear, essentially, if something were to go wrong. But when you hit the Save Progress button, it locks in even though the session is still open and it hasn't been graphed yet. Let's look at an instructional note. So I want to bring your attention to the instructional notes. This gives you the directions for how to implement the intervention. So the evoking stimuli is the instruction that you're giving, or the SD that you want the client to respond to. The materials are the things that you should be preparing in your session planning for this goal. The array is how the materials are to be presented, or if that's necessary. The environment is where the intervention is happening. Teaching format, whether it is natural environmental teaching or discrete trial training or chaining. The target response is specifically what you are looking for to say that the behavior occurred or did not occur. The prompt and procedure descriptions outlines what kind of prompt you should be using and how you should be prompting the client. So it might say least to most or most to least, or it might list out that you're supposed to use a verbal prompt or a partial verbal prompt or a modeling prompt only. An error correction procedure, if your BCBA is using one. Reinforcement outlines how you're expected to reinforce the behavior, as well as what reinforcement schedule you're on. Last, in the data collection procedures, it'll give you more information specifically about how you're expected to collect the data on that goal. And down here you have comments where you can add extra information that's beneficial to any observed behaviors on this goal. If your BCBA asks you to collect ABC data, you'll use this ABC square down here on the pin box. You'll click that, choose the target behavior. Then the antecedent and the consequences are already pre-filled based on function. So we'll say this to be low attention, child began clapping, and then attention was provided. So in stimuli notes, you want to provide a brief description of what the current environment was. So we'll say mom and then setting events could be any huge change that happened recently that could have an impact on the target behavior. So we'll say maybe that went back to work after being home for a year. And then you'll just click submit, and your ABC data has been recorded. Now, if you don't like having so much stuff on your screen, you can get rid of windows or parts of the window as needed. When you see these little triangles, you can hide the panels. And you can click it to bring them back out. To end session, you're going to click Graph All, and it'll show you what data has been collected, targets that cannot be graphed because they don't have any data, and then targets with no data collected that can be graphed. And you can select which ones need to be graphed. Then you'll click Graph All and End Session. And that's it.